23-10, Ireland over Georgia. I feel like Georgia is getting a bit better, which is pleasing to see. Either that or Wales and Ireland have just been below par, and that's quite possible as well because Wales have certainly been, I mean, they maybe stepped it up a little bit against England, but they haven't been quite the team of old in 2020. And Ireland, likewise, I mean, there was criticism of them last week for not being able to break down the English defence, and I think the expectations were a bit higher that they would score more than 23 points against the Georgians, but the Georgian defence, it was pretty good. I'll go over some of the key events of the game, some stats, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on how this one went. Short story, I thought. Probably a moral victory to Georgia, even if it's a job done for Ireland. The opening stanza, it seemed like Ireland were pretty happy to operate in Georgia's half, a bit of kick ball through. And there seems to be a thing with Ireland recently. They like to kick early and then kind of settle into the play. The first scrum, interestingly, resulted in a Georgian scrum penalty. And that's not something we've seen that much in recent times. The Georgian scrum's been under a bit of pressure. But in this game, it kind of went both ways. But the Georgians probably had their best run scrummaging in this game than any other. However, they did miss touch, and I swear it's the third time at least in as many games that the Georgians have missed touch from a penalty. And if you do want to separate, close that separation between yourselves and some of the better teams, unforced errors like that aren't going to do yourself any favours. As we saw when the Pumas beat the All Blacks when they were on their game a couple of weeks ago, you do have to be on your game and hope the other team maybe makes a few mistakes. Whereas if you're not, we saw what happened a couple of weeks later. But yeah, 7 minutes, Tyke Byrne had a big turnover, which was pleasing because that's what he does so well. Ireland's attack, Stockdale had a kick through. It was a wee bit messy because I think the Georgian guy managed to grab it, so it wasn't quite the play. Like sometimes, I mean, it's easy for us sitting and watching the TV. You think you can see what decision should have been made, and there was a few times in this game where you're like, Ireland are sure to score here, but it didn't quite pay off. 8 minutes, I thought Ireland, I wrote blow a chance for at least 4-on-2. The commentators, what I was watching, said 5-on-3. Either way, they had men over on the left wing. They managed to get it to Keith Earls. But the Georgians managed to hold. Farrell managed to draw some tacklers and pass out behind, which was a slick little move, one of the better attacking moves of the game. That went to Burns, and that went over for the try. So they initially probably should have scored out wide, but they made up for it with Chris Farrell's pass and Billy Burns going over. So it's 7-0 after like 8 minutes. Probably the conversion, it's like 9 or 10 minutes. So that's not going too bad. 11 minutes, the second scrum goes Ireland's way. This is what I mean about it kind of going both ways at times. 13 minutes, Ireland get a penalty from Georgia infringing at the breakdown, and they go 10-0 up. And again, 10-0 up, 13 minutes. It seems like, at that speed, Ireland's going to go on to a pretty comfortable win. Although Georgia, they did get their first real chance. I mean, after missing touch was a bit of a missed opportunity earlier on. 15 minutes, Ireland made a mistake at the restart. The Georgian kick, they put a kick through and it was too big, but it was encouraging. And I wrote that, like encouraging from Georgia. They're actually, something we didn't hardly see from them against England, them actually being down the opposition end. We saw a bit of it against Wales, but they weren't able to get on the board. And they were kind of at that stage already, and it's 15 minutes gone. And then like a minute later, the Georgian centre, Kiv Saladze, sorry about the pronunciation of the Georgian names, but man, what a magic try. Try of the game. As good as Farrell's pass was, this try was just, he goes through a gap, he beats like the initial tackles, and then he puts a sickening dummy on Stockdale. It's a thing of beauty. And it's one of those ones where there's kind of support runners there, and he doesn't quite have to commit to the pass, so he just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and eventually he just makes it a bloody line, man. His support runner kind of did well to get in the way of the oncoming attacker, but I mean, he's allowed to be there because he's onside, right? He's in a supporting position. He's not blocking a tackler from the offside position. He's just supporting his runner as he makes a line break. So, hell of a try, man. The defense of Ireland was was not up to the task for that one, but a bit of magic to see the Georgians get on the board. He just kept going, didn't he? Proper stuff. 10-7. Interestingly, like the T fell over as the Georgian fly half was going to take the conversion. I was thinking, well, he's not had to do this many times. I think they've taken one shot at goal the entire Autumn Nations Cup thus far, and that was a missed penalty. So, yeah. But good to see the Georgians get on the board. That was very pleasing. 22 minutes, Ireland another penalty. Byrne had a good run in the build-up, so it was 13-7. Bit of momentum back Ireland's way. 25 minutes, another Georgian scrum penalty. This time the touch finder was good, which was pleasing. However, their line-out, it also struggled a wee bit at times, the Georgians. 29 minutes, a chance for Ireland, actually, after a Georgian defensive line-out didn't go straight. And a few of the times, as I mentioned, the Georgian line-out, either on attack or defence, quite a few times early, they were going long. They were going way to the back of the line-out. I feel like get a couple of settlers in you early, even if there's not as many options if you throw short. At least get things settled down. They wanted to bring out the fancy stuff straight away, and it wasn't going for them. Ireland had a scrum that won a penalty. Wisely, they chose to not go for another scrum, but they went for a line-out that set a maul. It had one stop, and then I thought maybe the ref's going to call a second stop, but they managed to keep trucking it forward, the Irish forwards, and it was held up. The TMO did check it. It was an on-field no try, and it was that man, Gorgadze, who kind of managed to interfere enough to keep the ball off the line. 33 minutes. Eventually, the Irish attack breaks down the Georgian defence. It was a good... They had advantage. A couple of good wide passes. The last one, Stockdale to Keenan, out on the right wing. I know Stockdale gets a fair bit of stick, and he'll get stick for getting the dummy for the Georgian try, but that was a pretty slick pass out to Keenan on the right wing. So, it was a good try for Keenan on 33, and Ireland at that point maybe looking a bit more comfortable at 20 points to 7, having had the Georgians bring it back to within penalty distance previously. The Georgians, their lineup was still struggling. Another long throw, missed chance in the Irish 22. McCloskey on 38 minutes looked to have gone over for a try on the left wing. Another big long Stockdale pass. It was Burns to Stockdale to McCloskey. The TMO ruled it went forward. And I don't feel like I get all that much... I don't know. I feel like I didn't really have a horse in this race, so I didn't really mind who won. But the ball travels forward if you're running forward. That's just a thing. That's the physics. I don't understand it. But if you've got the momentum going forward and you throw the ball perfectly sideways, it will naturally track forward. That's just the way it is. I felt Stockdale's pass out of the hands, which is why they do that law. It's got to be out of the hands. Out of the hands, it was, I think, flat, and then it just drifted forward. And because he was standing pretty much right on the halfway line when he threw the pass, you do see it drift forward. But I thought I would have gone benefit of the doubt to that one, to be honest. It wasn't clearly forward out of the hands for mine. The TMO was adamant it was, and the ref was kind of umming and ahhing and then agreed that it was forward. I don't know. Like, the pass definitely travelled forward, but he was running forwards, and that's just the way that works. Don't know. Maybe it was forward straight out of the hands. It was 50-50, I guess. Nice to keep the game close, but shame to call back a pretty sweet move. 40 minutes, Georgia hold on as Ireland go close again right before half-time. They were held up. They probably should have scored. That was maybe the story of the day. How many tries do Ireland get denied in this game? Like at least 3. At least 3. But Georgian defence, got to give them some credit. So yeah, the half-time possession stats, it's like 70-30, man. Ireland have had all the ball, all the territory, but the scoreboard's not like being totally blown out. Second half, Georgian get a chance after a big scrum. Their line-out at that point is better, thankfully. They get the line-out right, the Georgians, but the Irish ball defence is pretty spot on, and the ball doesn't come out. So it's a turnover for Ireland either way. 47 minutes, however, Georgia do kick a penalty to make it 20 points to 10. 58 minutes, Ross Byrne, who's come on for Billy Burns, who went off pretty early in the second half. He kicks a penalty. Again, both scrums have been getting penalised. The second half, I didn't take a heck of a lot of notes because it was getting a bit messy. 23 points to 10. 62 minutes, Georgia's best player, in my opinion, Gorgadze, goes off. Looks like a pretty bad knee injury. He has to get stitches off. They stopped the game for quite some time. He puts his hand up as he goes off, but man, he's pretty much done, I think. And Will Connors goes off for an HIA as well, and he doesn't come back. So you end up with two hookers on the field for Ireland. So yeah, it got a bit messy. Injuries maybe the biggest story of that second half. The last 10 minutes is essentially all Georgians tackling and then winning turnovers at the breakdown. Stunder gets held up on a line-out move right before the full time, which I was pretty annoyed about because I had a few dollars on Stunder to score a try in that game. He got bloody close, but he didn't get there. 81 minutes. Ireland get turned over again. Georgia kick it long. There's phases and the ball ends up getting knocked on and it's game over. So the second half kind of peters out with not a heck of a few, bad injuries, which is unfortunate. But in terms of the gameplay stuff, there wasn't as much going on in that second half. As I mentioned, Stunder went close. The Georgian defence was under heaps of pressure. Ireland probably should have scored again, but not to be. Give credit to the Georgian defenders and maybe a bit of criticism to the Irish attack for not being able to unlock them better than they did. I wrote a note and I said, Irish attack a bit disjointed, not clinical. So I think that's probably fair. That'll have to improve. Full-time stats, you got possession 72-28 in Ireland's favour. Territory 80-20. You wouldn't know it to look at the scoreboard though. Run meters 383-153. So again, very dominant for Ireland. Interestingly, the commentary feed I had, said there were 600 plus run meters, and every company measures stats in different ways. It's a human either way at the end of the device logging the stats, but they obviously use a different company. The one I used two separate ones, and they both had the 383-153 figure, which seems about right. Kicks from hand 24-11, so a lot fewer than the games recently. Remember, France and Italy was 54-48 kicks from hand, and England was 43, I think, in their game. So yeah, for Ireland to have only kicked 24 times is low, and Georgia only 11, also pretty low, but they didn't have much ball. But yeah, more stuff from hand. Maybe they need to be kicking a bit more. I don't know, but the decision-making at times when there seems to be space is not often being that well taken. Tackling percentage, Georgia finished with 89% and 157 tackles, which is a monstrous shift. I don't want to take away from the Georgian effort here by just criticising the Irish attack, because the Georgians were really up for it, and they played the full 80. Ireland had 87% and 54 tackles, but it means the Georgians made 100 plus more tackles than the Irish and still managed to keep getting up off the ground and still tackling their guts out. So yeah, credit to them. Turnovers conceded 22-12. That's actually Georgia with the bigger number, so that's a bit disconcerting when you've only got 28% possession to be turning the pill over a lot more. But they did win 10 turnovers to Ireland's 8, so too many knock-ons and whatnot from Georgia. Defenders beaten 19-8. Maybe that's a bit concerning for Ireland because you've got 72% possession and you've only got just over double the defenders beaten. It's a bit of a story of the attack not being able to unlock the defence. Individual, Stunder had 82 run meters, 3 defenders beaten. McCloskey had 106 run meters, probably a few of those in that disallowed try. 2 defenders beaten. Kev Zeladze had 42 run meters, a clean break, and 3 defenders beaten. Good effort from him. He looked one of the more dangerous Georgian guys. Sharakadze, the captain, had 17 out of 17 tackles. Beelum for Ireland had 8 out of 8. I should say 3 more of the Georgian guys had 15 plus tackles. So Sharakadze had the most with 17, but there were 4 guys who all had 15 plus tackles and multiple more in double figures as well. So yeah, Beka Gorgadze, the guy who got injured, 12 from 14 tackles, 6 turnovers. 6 as a monstrous effort before he got injured. I wish him well in his recovery. So, yeah, Ireland will take on Scotland, which could be an interesting game at that point. Yeah, that's going to be a fun one to watch to see where the teams are quite at. Because Scotland's kind of a team doing well, but they lost to France. But France is also a team seemingly on the up. Georgia will take on Fiji. For some reason, the lady interviewing Sharakadze at the end of the game was asking about playing Fiji. No, not Fiji, Italy. But they're not playing Italy, they're playing Fiji. As long as Fiji are cleared to play with all the COVID cases. So hopefully it's not the last game we've seen from Georgia. Hopefully we get to see them take on Fiji, like a repeat of the World Cup just gone. But yeah, man, 15 minutes. I better get going. What do you guys reckon? If you're Irish, are you underwhelmed? Are you disappointed? Are you happy with the kind of control of the game, but lack of execution? You could have had an easy 3 more tries, which would have made the scoreline a lot easier on the eye for an Irish point of view. But if you're Georgian, you got to be pleased with the hell of a try, and your defence was putting the Irish attackers under a lot of pressure, and at key times it was rock solid. So yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.